Hey friends, Spencer here. We've got a little mini episode for you today. It's the debut of a segment we're calling Story Time with Uncle Rob, where Rob Kristofferson of the Our Strange Skies podcast blesses us with an alien or UFO story that we are probably not familiar with. So enjoy. See you on the other side.
Hello, and welcome to Uncle Rob's Alien Storytime. I'm Uncle Rob, as you've no doubt guessed at this point, and I've donned my loafers, and I've put on my grandpa's sweater. Basically, I've dolled myself up in some Mr. Rogers shit, and I've got a wonderful alien story for you all. For this tale, we need to go back to 1967. The United States and Canada were swept up in a UFO flap. For the U.S., it was the third straight year of intense UFO activity. 1967 was the year that a UFO farted on Stephen Michalak, causing a grid-like burn to appear on his abdomen at Falcon Lake. It was also the year that some strange object crashed into Shag Harbor. Mothman's bad bitch attitude was on full display in the Ohio Valley, and in Ohio itself, two motorists claimed to hit an alien and a UFO with their cars. For this particular story, we find ourselves in the small town of Riri, Idaho. During the 2010 census, Riri was home to under 1,000 residents. Tiny-ass town. On November 2nd, 1967, at approximately 9:30 p.m., two young Navajo men, Guy Tossi and Will Begay, were driving south of town when a flash of white light blinded them. Their car stopped instantly. In front of them, a strange object that resembled two bowls stacked on top of one another, approximately 6 to 8 feet in diameter, was hovering 5 feet off the road in front of them. Around the rim of the object, where the two bowls met, was a string of orange and green flashing lights. The dome on top was transparent, and between the flashes, the two young men could discern a pair of small figures looking at them. It was then that a doorway opened up on the transparent dome, and one of the short beings lifted up and floated toward the stranded motorists. They had a clearer look at the being's features. Its head was bald, and it had large ears placed high up on its head, like the Kelly Hopkinsville goblins. The skin on its face was wrinkled like a cantaloupe, and it wore skin-tight overalls with a strange pack on its back. The small being floated toward the driver's side and opened the door. The being climbed behind the wheel. Begay and Tossi were forced to push over, and the alien being drove the car into a wheat field before coming to a complete stop. And when it did, Guy Tossi ran from the car and ran a quarter-mile to the farmhouse of Willard Harmon. As he ran, he could see his shadow being cast in front of him, a white light to his back. Perhaps the second UFO occupant was giving chase. Will Begay cowered in the passenger seat. The being behind the wheel was trying to communicate with him, though he couldn't discern any words in the being's high-pitched chirps. When the strange alien got no response from Begay, it exited the car and met up with the other occupant. They floated to their craft and departed in a zigzag pattern. Guy Tossi banged on the door to the Harmon home, screaming for help. It's unclear what help the aged farmer would be. Perhaps his pitchfork game was strong. Tossi conveyed the story to the farmer and his son, Bob. Tossi's fear was evident in every word that came out of his mouth. Willard and Bob accompanied Guy Tossi back to the last known location of the car. The farmer looked in from the driver's side door, still open. Begay was huddled in the corner of the vehicle's passenger side, in a state of shock. Willard Harmon had to drive the boys home that night. A number of witnesses reported seeing a strange UFO that night. Farmers reported that their cows were spooked, but one man, a few miles north, had a familiar encounter. 2 hours after Tossi and Begay's encounter, an anonymous man driving in a truck was stopped by a UFO that descended in front of him. A being exited and tried to enter his vehicle. It tapped on the window, and it scratched on his windshield. The unknown man, though, had been drinking that night, and he thought he was losing his mind. He conveyed the story to a coworker, who passed it on to a UFO investigator. A year after the incident took place, the investigator went looking for him, but found that the man had moved away. This has been Uncle Rob's Alien Storytime. Sleep well, children.
All right, there you have it. That has been Uncle Rob's Alien Storytime. If you enjoyed that, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/whatifpodcast. We're going to be putting up a bunch of extra content for the next couple weeks to try and get through this bullshit and have a little bit of fun in the process. See you soon.